Hello, Econ students. This is Mr. Alvarez here, recapping Friday's lesson, which unfortunately we were unable to finish due to time. It starts with the circular flow model. This is a basic model in economics, and it pretty much shows how our economy functions. It shows us the relationship between businesses and buyers. Okay, so it shows the relationship of us and the people who produce things for us. So, this is the circular flow map. As you can see here, there are 4 distinct things you have to go ahead and take note of. Businesses, we also call them firms, and households, that's us. We have what are called product markets and factor markets. Product markets are where finished goods belong. So, for example, a product market would be like Albertsons or Ralph's, would be like the mall where you find stores. Factor markets is the commodity trades. It's where the factors of production, right, are bought and sold. More of that in a little bit. So what do you need to know? You need to know that the circular flow model describes the flow of money and products throughout the economy. We give money, right, in the product markets to get the goods that are produced by businesses. It shows 2 sectors, households and businesses. That's essential. So let's go ahead and focus on product markets and resource markets. Resource markets are also called factor markets. A product market is where goods and services are bought and sold. Households are the buyers and businesses are the sellers. These can be things like goods or services. So just to recap from Friday, a good is something tangible. It's something that you can hold. A service, you can't necessarily hold that. The example I gave in class is like medical services. If a doctor is helping me with a medical concern, I can't take that service home, but I can take a box of Band-Aids home. So that's product markets. That's where the buyers, which are household, go and purchase goods and services from businesses, which are the sellers. Resource markets. That's the markets where the factors of productions are pretty much bought and sold and traded. In this market, the households, me and you, we are the sellers of our resources. Remember, in our economy, we have a free market economy, capitalism. In capitalism, households, individuals, are the ones who own all the factors of productions, and we, individuals, are the ones who answer all 3 economic questions. We sell our factors of production to the businesses, which now are the buyers. So, for example, we sell our labor to businesses. In return, our income would be the wage. So the businesses would go ahead and buy our labor and give us a wage. So let's go ahead and put this all together. As you can see here, this is the circular flow model. Please disregard taxes, subsidies, transfer payments, and the government. We're going to look at that a little later when we study macroeconomics. Okay? For now, let's just look at the outside. As you can see here, we have businesses, firms, individual households. The resource market right here, and the product market over here. So as you can see here, households, okay, are going to go ahead and spend their money on finished goods and services at a mall. That money is revenue, and that is going to businesses, okay? These businesses are going to use that money, that revenue they got, their profits, and they're going to use that profit to purchase resources, the factors of production, which are supplied by households or individuals. In return, households and individuals receive income. Now that can be wages, that could be rent, right? That can be also interest. We use that money to go ahead and spend more, and the cycle continues. Or you can look at it from the other perspective. Households, individuals, we give our resources, the factors of production, at the resource market. It's bought by businesses. The resources are then used by businesses to create goods and services, which are now a finished product in the product market and are sold back to individuals. So the cycle just continues, no matter which way you look at it, where the money is flowing back to individuals, back to businesses for more goods and services, or when we sell our resources, which are then created to produce goods and services. And that's it. That's the flow model. Now let's go back to economic systems. Now, very simply, it comes down to command economies and the free market economy. Centrally planned economies. These are communist countries. Now, you can have a communist country like China, but they don't necessarily have a centrally planned economy anymore. Okay? What you do need to know is that in a central planned economy, all the resources are owned by the government, and all the economic questions, what to produce, how to produce it, and for whom, are answered by the government. They tend to have shortages, which means not enough stuff for everybody. For example, you go to a grocery store and the shelves are empty. That happens all the time. We can take a look at Venezuela today. We can also take a look at North Korea. Also, you have poor quality goods and unhappy citizens. The reason for that is there's no incentive. Okay? Let's go back to incentive. An incentive is something that motivates you to do something. For example, if you know that if everybody comes into class and starts their due now immediately, Mr. Alvarez will provide pizza at the end of the week. That gives most people in class the incentive to do their due now at the start of class. Maybe not everyone, but most. Incentives drives people to do an action. And typically incentives are good. So what are some advantages and disadvantages of a centrally planned economy? Well, the good thing is that there's low unemployment because everyone has a job. The government makes sure of that. It's not like you're going to lose your job because the government's not going to go out of business. There's equal pay, in theory. And the healthcare system is pretty good in communist countries for the most part. What are the bad? No incentive to work harder. You're just going to work just enough not to be noticed or get fired. Without incentive, there's no innovation. You can't start your own business because there's no incentive to make a profit because you can't. Thus, we don't have good ideas or new ideas. Without incentive or profit, there's no competition. And you can't have good quality goods or lower prices. You tend to have corrupt leaders, and there's few individual freedoms. All right, now let's look at what we have in our country. We have what is called a free market system, and it incorporates a little bit of a mixed economy as well. But for the most part, we practice capitalism in the States. Laissez-faire. This individual is Adam Smith. We're not going to look into him, but he's viewed as the father of modern economics. So what are the characteristics of a free market system? Well, one, no government involvement. Laissez-faire. Let it be. Okay? And you've learned this from last year from Ms. Quinteros in the U.S. history. That was the government's philosophy throughout the 20s, the booming 20s. However, that changed with the Great Depression. Individuals, people, own the resources, and we answer the economic questions. There is opportunity because we can make profit, which gives us incentive to not only create the best good, but to do it efficiently, so to do it cheaply. We have a wide variety of goods that are available to all consumers. And competition, because of self-interest, work together to regulate the economy. Regulate is a fancy word. I wouldn't say fancy, but it's a word that means to fix itself. The free market economy fixes itself. And that was the theory throughout pretty much the whole start of our country up until the 30s. We'll look at that later. But what happened in the 30s is the economy wasn't fixing itself, so the government stepped in to spend money. Okay? And we'll look at that again when we look back at the flow map. So what are some examples of a free market? In other words, how does it fix itself? Let's say a consumer wants smartphones and only one company is making them. Other businesses will have the incentive to start making smartphones too because they want a profit. This leads to more competition, right? Because you now have not just Apple, but now you have Samsung. So now you have an iPhone and a Galaxy phone. They're going to compete with each other, which means you're going to have better quality phones, more variety phones. Now you have a Google phone out there. Okay, now you have a Boost phone. And what they're going to do is lower prices because they're competing with each other. We produce the goods and services that society wants because the resources follow the profits. So what's the end result? You get efficient production because we're going to make stuff that are advantageous for us as business owners. We're not going to make something that's too expensive to make, or we're not going to make it in a way, right, that's going to cost us too much. We're going to produce at the lowest price at the highest quality. So what are some examples of central planners? In other words, why has command systems failed? Because if a consumer wants a smartphone, only one company is making them. Other businesses can't start making more smartphone computers, right? There's no competition, which means there's going to be one price, low quality and no variety. More phones will not be made until the government decides to create a new factory. What's the end result? You have a shortage of goods that consumers want, right? They cost too much and their quality is poor. So that brings us to a concept called the invisible hand. It's a concept that society's goals, self-interest, will be met as long as everybody is doing their self-interest. So, for example, if society wants fuel-efficient cars, right, profit-seeking producers will make more. Competition will then be spurred, lower prices, greater efficiency. Thus, the government does not need to get involved because society automatically meets the needs. Competition and self-interest act as a regulator. They are the invisible hand. Okay? The invisible hand is the idea that when individuals seek their own self-interest, things will just correct itself. When the first hybrid cars came out, they were expensive. The first Tesla car, when it came out, it was expensive. But over time, prices are lowering and more people have hybrid cars because more producers are making it, and they're making them cheaper because they're making it more efficiently. That's competition. That is self-interest. Now we have what are called mixed economies. It's just a system that has a little bit of both. Right? Almost all countries, including the United States, have mixed economies. That's about it. Please go ahead and watch this video on China and let you know why they're not necessarily a command economy anymore. You don't necessarily need this. And this is just a cool image giving you example of a command economy, North Korea, and a free market economy, South Korea. After the Korean War, they were both devastated. But as you can see, competition and self-interest has spurred economic growth. North Korea, it has not. That's all for Friday's lesson. Please study for Tuesday's and Wednesday's exam. Thank you so much.